Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of Tea with Tayaba. And today is a very special with extra energy this time because we have a lot of amazing young change makers joining us and also sharing of how Social Business Day has been for over the past few weeks. So we have Sergio, the co-CEO of Yunus Social Innovation. So hi, Sergio. Thank you for joining us. And then
Hello,
we have
everybody.
Saniya and Qasim from the team Rizq. And we're really going to be highlighting how we had the first Pakistan Country Forum for Rizq this year. So yes, Qasim and Saniya, thank you for joining us. So I think let's just start and talk about what's been happening. What is the Social Business Day? Because it has come out after I think a number of years again. Now that everyone's talking about that narrative, and especially how we're talking about young entrepreneurs driving the social sustainable change and towards healthcare. So what's driving that? So I think, Sergio, we can start with your experience as at Dhaka, what your insights have been, how has Yunus Social Innovation been interacting with a lot of change makers, and definitely what says in your background, because doing good makes business sense. So if you want to highlight, and we can start from there.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Soha. And it's a real pleasure to be invited to this podcast with all of you. Actually, the experience at Social Business Day was the first one for me on my end as a co-CEO of Yunus Social Innovation. It was also the first time I traveled to Bangladesh, and it was an amazing experience, really, to get to know the other members of the family, on the social business, and really actually seeing how social business became a movement, really seeing how it has mobilized and changed the norm, really, from what a traditional business was meant to do to what actually can do, and in which way it inspires others, especially young and communities, to take agency of their own destiny. So that was a first very much reaction or reflection that I had. Second was also the youth. You are talking about change makers, and really getting to meet many of the students that were participating in the event during those 2 3 days. Really, actually getting kind of like ad hoc pitches, from their ideas, and really seeing how they and their ideas could change things from the bottom up, which is very much part of the movement. So, all in all, it was a beautiful, amazing experience, inspiring movements in a moment, and also, of course, listening to Professor Yunus talking about generosity, right? Like that is a key of, you know businesses, stakeholders, organizations, humans. We need to figure out ways of connecting with our generosity and seeing the others in moments where things are actually quite difficult.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, Sergio, if I were just to like build a little more on it, there's been a lot of debate around like segregating maybe like social business or business. But then again, theoretically or maybe in like the frameworks or the sort of conversations that we have, we're always talking about people, planet, profit. But then why does maybe doing good, generosity, or maybe when we talk about charity, all of that maybe somewhat in sense of goes towards sympathy and not empowerment. So how does that narrative, and when it comes to social innovation, how do you make sure that we are attaching that element of the real empowerment that comes with
Yeah.
doing good with business comes to highlight? So what's your strategy? What is your storytelling style? How do you take that?
Yeah. So actually, our starting point of the way we think, our mindset as an organization, who basically we as a sister organization of Yunus Social Business, which was sort of co-founded by Professor Yunus together with Saskia Bristen and others 12, 15 years ago. To us, and our very core mandate is looking at evolving philanthropy, evolving social impact, and looking at it from a sustainable point of view, which again connects very much with the concept of a social business. Philanthropy somehow ends up stopping at the moment the funder decides to somehow shift gears. To us, helping companies, helping corporations, helping foundations figure out a way of integrating impact and social innovation in the core of the business makes it part of a vision of the organization. Also, the organization choosing which role do they want to play in influencing society, so that it becomes sustainable, so that it becomes fair, so that it becomes empathetic to everybody, right? And to us, that is very much key, and empowerment is part of it. bringing the voice of the people who will be beneficiaries, who will be actually being impacted by the policies, by the strategies, by the products of the organizations we work with, is to us key, because it then creates that sense of ownership for us to you know collaborate and contribute together around the way we want to create or shape a world which really has everybody and for all in the very center.
100%. I think again, this is about like systems approach that we have to take to get these hubs and chunks come together into play, so that we're driving that change and meaningful impact with all of the parties and stakeholders coming together. So I think that's wonderful. I think Qasim and Sani, if I redirect it towards you now a little, we had the Pakistan Country Forum. Taiba also had a chance to attend it, and we had a lot of interesting insights that were, talked about. We had conversations, we had a lot of debates as well. So I think if you guys want to maybe share the process of how this journey has been, how was it conducting the Pakistan Country Forum, getting the first delegation from Pakistan to go to the Social Business Day, what sort of minds, what sort of narratives were put to that, and then how did it go at Dhaka on ground?
Yeah, definitely. Before taking that on, I would just want to move a bit back. So
Yeah.
interestingly, Risk has been an organization which was primarily run through charity and philanthropy. So we were majorly focused on charitable projects, development-based projects. Funding came in, and we developed projects and executed them, like Sergio has been mentioning. So a very exciting and interesting projects would end after the funding would dry up. So back in 2021, I got this opportunity to attend this master's program that was initiated by the Yunus Center at AIT Thailand. So I was one of the only Pakistanis who were in that professional master's program. It was called Yunus Professional Masters for Social Business and Entrepreneurship. So I was like, let's attend this master's program and get into the Yunus network, because when we researched about different models across the world, this was the only model that we latched onto, because it was something really close to our heart and very very relevant to the work that we wanted to do. We wanted to create something sustainable. We wanted to work around various domains, ranging from healthcare to food security to building houses, and all of that being done in a social business approach. And we did not call it social business, but our our mind was being directed naturally towards that direction. When we got to know that this philosophy and this ideology has been existing since more than a decade, and not only ideology, but the practical manifestation is also there in terms of companies actually executing that, and not at pilot stages, but at large scale, where they have major shareholdings in terms of customers, in terms of tapping the customer segment. So this was really fascinating. See, I graduated from the master's program back in 2022, and the whole idea of the master's program was, we did not have to write thesis and the master's project. So the whole idea was to create an actual on ground social business. I went back to Pakistan, created a flagship social business focused on enhancing access to food, highly nutritious, safe food to the urban masses in Lahore. This was the particular social business project that I started working on. And then we got to know there's this social business gathering called the Social Business Day that happens every year around. So, and that was back in 2023, that was happening in Malaysia. So that's where Saniya led the first Social Business Day attendance journey of Rizq. And if you could highlight on that, Saniya, and then we can kind of connect that how we kind of plan on taking a delegation from Pakistan, from going through our individual perspective to an organizational perspective, then a national perspective. So this has been our journey of the last three social businesses that we have been attending.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I attended my first social business day, that was in Langkawi in Malaysia. And so for me, I was at that stage where I feel like the social enterprise sector of Pakistan is now, where it's like, what is social business? And it seems like such a foreign and also such an unrealistic concept, to be honest. this idea of bringing in business principles into something that's traditionally associated with charity and giving and religion. So there's that internal resistance as well. So for me, that first experience was so important and eye-opening. Well, first of all, it was a little disappointing to see there was nobody else from Pakistan there. But other than that, just to see how far along the rest of the world is in terms of taking the social business conversation. I mean, countries like, Thailand, Indonesia, and Bangladesh have been kind of bearing the flag for this for so long. There's so many amazing youth entrepreneurs that are working in this space, but also there's so much buy-in at a policy level. There's ecosystems in place. There's all kinds of immersion programs there. And I think what that did was kind of help me benchmark, where it is that we stand with regards to social business as a country. And so that kind of, just that feeling is something that we then wanted to share with other social enterprises and, policymakers and leaders working in Pakistan social sectors. So we realized that this immersive journey is really important. Again, it's one thing to know and to revere Dr. Yunus through, whatever we read of him in the newspaper, but really kind of hearing his own conviction regarding these principles, witnessing how he's kind of championing that movement with such a passion for kinder systems and lasting systems. So yeah, again, it's one thing to experience it all firsthand. And so what we realized was we need a really multi-pronged approach where we're not just talking about social business on ground. We're not just, building those kind of, and Qasim will shed more light on this. We're not just building like course modules and education streams for young people, but we need people from here going there and seeing what the world is up to when it comes to social business. So that was kind of our thinking behind kind of curating Pakistan's first ever formal delegation as well. We were like, if nobody else is going to do it, we will. We're just going to kind of bear that flag if we have to. So yeah, back over to you, Qasim.
Yeah, so that's how the thought process started, Zoha, and the whole idea was to gather all the amazing people who've been doing so much good work in Pakistan. Whenever you see stats in terms of giving, you see Pakistan ranking in either top 10 or top 20, right? And this gives us so much excitement and energy that in an imaginative space, if all this giving is institutionalized in terms of creating social businesses,
Yeah.
the kind of impact that we can create, for example, it's marvelous. So that
Yeah.
was the excitement and the thought process behind developing this first Pakistan Country Forum and taking this initiative to mobilize all the social activists, young entrepreneurs and development sector leaders to kind of join us in this journey, and let's have this bandwagon effect where we can develop social businesses for various sectors.
Yeah.
So this was
Yeah.
the whole idea behind it, and I think it was very well received. And we had some interesting stakeholders. You were one of the stakeholders there, so it was very well received. And we are
Yeah.
still getting queries from aspiring young entrepreneurs to seasoned development practitioners who have shown a lot of interest that how can we change our methodologies and change our operations to a social business approach. And now I
Yeah.
think the next step was that we need to go on ground and see what is happening. So it was really exciting to see more than 30 Grameen network companies all working under the methodology of social business. To
Yeah.
be honest, it was a kind of a dream come true kind of a site where we could see, a
Yeah.
solar company, one of the Bangladesh pioneering and leading solar company, which is a social business company. You could
Yeah.
see a fashion brand becoming a social business and running the show in terms of the textile sector. So it
Yeah.
was very fascinating to see companies, and similar for healthcare and similar for nutrition, and you name a domain, right? So that was really exciting, and I think more of these exposure visits are required for people to go from Pakistan to Bangladesh, people from all across the different sectors, from policymakers to businessmen to young entrepreneurs to development sector practitioners. So all and academics. So these five stakeholders. So our next agenda is to mobilize all these five stakeholders and develop these exposure groups. We had a very interesting chat with Professor Yunus post Social Business Day, where we were, really eager in terms of putting it forward that we want to expand this network to Pakistan because Pakistan has shown a lot of interest in terms of adapting to this model, and then to see what is happening on ground in Bangladesh. So interestingly, our diplomatic relations with Bangladesh are on the rise. So we have a very good ecosystem for this knowledge sharing. A lot can be learned from Pakistan, which can be adopted in Bangladesh, and a lot can be learned from Bangladesh, which can be adopted in Pakistan.
100%. And I think it's more about accessibility and collaboration at this point, to not just fixating ourselves to certain geographies, but also looking at how we can collectively come together as like on a even as a global level. Because I think very interestingly how we mentioned about, it was a social business that was running. We just did not know how to coin a term for it, right? So I think we
Definitely.
have a similar journey as well, starting
Yeah.
with one H2O wheel and then growing to like a portfolio of H2O solutions, now coming to H2O Air, having that entire social entrepreneurship concept around it. It was about understanding how that strategy was working. And then again, sharing of knowledge is very important. And I think, Sergio, that is where I would love to come back to you in terms of understanding your partnership with a lot of different companies and big corporates who are looking at doing good. And that is making business sense, with Reckitt Catalyst also being launched very recently, being at the forefront, and also very much encouraging projects from grassroots level and from countries like Pakistan to come forward, to have like a more strategic approach towards when it comes to social business, understanding how these initiatives work. So, what's in it with Reckitt Catalyst, and how do you plan on, experimenting this sort of narrative through these grassroots organizations so that they also become sustainable and resilient to run business and business models altogether?
Thanks, Sohan. And it's lovely to listen to you, Qasim, and Saniya on your reflections around social business. And also listening to you, Tayaba, how you are yourselves being identified with the concept, right? To us, I think we prefer not to get stuck with the actual naming, right? Like, it's to us, it's more of that, as you say, the mindset and the philosophy of what a business can do or cannot do, right? That's exactly to us what was the most inspiring moment of a full movement of a social business, when it was proven that you could actually loan to people at poverty level, and you will get your loan back, and that micro loan will enable people to live themselves out of poverty. And that was something that broke the norm, right? So to us, in our philosophy as a company working with other companies, we try to inspire them, following the principles of a social business, inspiring what they can do or cannot do, right? Around impact, around, again, I was saying this before, around their role in society, and how they can collaborate and mobilize others. And that very much is the origin of a Reckitt Catalyst. The Reckitt Catalyst is a global partnership between Reckitt, Yunus Social Innovation, Health Innovation Exchange, and Acumen America, where we are aiming to accelerate and empower up to 200 social innovators in many different geographies across the world. And basically, the program or the initiative is supporting entrepreneurs who are putting impact on the very center. These are health and hygiene entrepreneurs who have solutions on the grassroots level, who are directly impacting, the barriers of access to health or hygiene in the communities where they live in. So our role as a global partnership is to provide and leverage the assets and the expertise and the networks and the acumen of organizations as huge as Reckitt, as big as Acumen, as inspiring as us, into empowering these entrepreneurs to be better at impact strategies, to be better at managing their businesses, better at connecting and opening doors so that they can scale their solutions. after being accelerated, they join a global community of practice of these entrepreneurs who have already been part of a movement. Because to us, that cross pollination, of organizations, entrepreneurs who have already been solving problems in their own geographies. But there are others who are trying to tackle very similar barriers, very similar problems in geographies that are either side by side, thinking of Kenya with Nigeria, with Uganda, but also, from Brazil to Pakistan this year, right? How can we actually create that environment where sharing, where collaborating, where partnering is the key, is the mindset, is the first option and not competition. So out of engaging with others and creating this community of entrepreneurs, mentors, and professionals from Reckitt, other actors in the ecosystem, policymakers, slowly you are proving and creating the evidence that choosing impact over profit or choosing impact with profit creates a sustainable model and allows companies like Reckitt, like IKEA, like others to actually say, well, impact is the business of the future. This is how we choose to look ahead and say, this is how we transform societies. This is how we transform our own businesses, making them resilient, but making and putting people in the very center. And this time, not saying the top for everybody.
100%. And I think, and this is how we talk about that this narrative was almost always present, but it's lovely to see that it's now coming out and everyone's advocating and, presenting it more boldly of how this is way more important than anything that we have been doing. And now this is the road to sustainability and resilience for everyone and not just one. Lovely. I think those have been great insights. Now we'll just be wrapping up the episode. It's been wonderful to hear all of these thoughts. I think as leaving notes, any advice to the young entrepreneurs who maybe like are slightly scared to enter into the social business or social entrepreneurship sector just because of the traditional or conventional ideas that have been attached to it, or maybe like, oh, it's not gonna go anywhere. So yeah, I think those sort of myths that are attached to it, any sort of advice or thoughts that you have for the young entrepreneurs entering into this space. So yeah, I think we can start. I think Sergio, we can start with you, and then we can just have a panel.
Yeah. So keep going at it. And that was part of my reflection out of my experience in social business. They really, really listening to many of the students who are still finalizing their degrees or already opening up their own ventures, coming to talk to people and say, hey, I'm missing this. These are things that are not. What's your advice? What's your take? How can we connect me? So keep going at it and speak up, right? Like, I think organizations, the more organizations, entrepreneurs, youth clearly take a stand around, this is not working. We need to do something about it. We need to reach to that critical mass of moving the needle. That would be one. The other is actually, maybe this may apply to just a few of the young entrepreneurs that you're referring to, but I wanted to also make and take the opportunity. We have a global open call for the Reckitt Catalyst this year, which is up to, I think, the beginning of August. And Pakistan is one of the countries and geographies where we are focusing on. So if you do have a health or hygiene enterprise that is addressing barriers of access to the people in the communities you serve, do make sure that you visit our website, ysi.global or reckitt.com, so that you can apply for the program.
Okay, I think that's like keep going, and then this is like a CDA. We're leaving you with the valuable opportunities. You would love to see a lot of Pakistani representation. We're also connecting with a lot of social enterprises to apply and tap the sort of opportunities that are coming up. Because it is going to be with the tapping of opportunities that we're also collaborating for a bigger, meaningful, and a ripple impact. Wonderful. Qasim, do you have any thoughts, any advice?
Amazing. Thank you, Sergio. I think my advice would be take the first step. It's always the first step that's, keeping you away from your dream and your vision. And it all starts making sense. So 5 decades back, who knew that we'll be talking about the social business movement? I mean, Dr. Yunus even didn't know about this. It was just about doing what was right and taking the first step right there, right then. That's it. So as a advice to the young aspiring entrepreneurs, there are a lot of crazy people out there to help you throughout your journey and facilitate you, to mentor you, to guide you. So just take the first step.
and believe in the process. It's
Yeah.
small steps that they join together, and then eventually you need to give it time. Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
Sanya, I think as your call towards whatever is happening. Yeah, Sergio, do you want to add on?
I, I was just this inspired me to go back to the one favorite principle of social business at
Yeah,
the very end is do it with joy,
Do it
right?
with joy. That's nice.
Like just
yeah,
put joy in the center. Being an entrepreneur is not an easy journey. We
yeah,
all know
Yeah.
it, but it's a beautiful one. And putting joy in the center will that is it cascades. It
yeah.
replicates somehow. Sorry, Sunny, I
Perfect.
interrupted.
Yeah,
No problem at all. For me, just quickly, I'd like to talk about the fundamental discomfort that a young person might face when approaching the concept of social business. Because I think socially we're taught to conflate kindness solely with giving. But I think one thing that, Dr. Yunus's philosophy has taught me to challenge as well is that, real kindness is sustainable and it's lasting and it's systemic. It's not just for one individual, it's not just for one community, and it doesn't just last one cycle or one season. It's a system that serves everybody from top to bottom. So I mean, just for any young people that are, kind of thinking about or hesitant to enter the social business space because it's profitable or whatever, I think that's something to keep in mind.
yeah. I think that's very beautifully to how like the social business core is at serving all. It's also for you, and you're part of that all community that we're referring to here. So yes, thank you, Sergio, Qasim, Saniya, for your time and wonderful advices. That's been amazing, and we'll catch up on our road to impact together, seeing each other, flourishing in our own ways and processes and collaborating for everyone. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you,
Perfect.
Team Tayaba,
Thank you
for
so
taking
much,
this
and thank you for having
initiative and
us.
organizing this.
Perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Sergio.
Have a
you.
good day.
Take
Yeah.
care.